Well, hi everybody, meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Welcome to the Joe Chaffee Weather Show on this Thursday, June the 27th, 2019. We're just moving right along here. Just 3 days left in this month. I know that snow lovers are always chomping at the bit. And, I'm already getting messages from people telling me that the days are getting shorter. Okay, and I get that. Okay, but we do have a long way to go. And today was another day of wall-to-wall sunshine for much of the area from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, and no severe weather going on this evening, which is a good thing. Last night we had some severe storms move through parts of upstate New York and across the Hudson Valley. Didn't really extend much further south than that. Everybody else just sort of sat in their evening clear skies, and now tonight it's very, very quiet. In fact, over much of the nation, you've got some areas where you're dealing with some showers and storms, but for the most part, the maps really kind of look like what they're supposed to look like at the end of June, beginning of July. It's funny that this year, how uneven seasons are, that you don't exactly wind up seeing seasons change on the given day that spring arrives or summer arrives. But this year so far, everything seems to be kind of following. I mean, it's not exact, but it is sort of following the time frames that they're supposed to. And we are seeing weather here that is typical for mid to late June if you've got the right pattern set up. One of the things that stands out to me is the fact that this type of air mass would normally send temperatures up perhaps to 90 to 95 in most areas on a day-to-day basis. But we're a good solid 5 degrees under that, and I think a lot of it has to do with the rains of the spring and the fact that the soil moisture content is very high. So you don't have a situation where you have ground being baked from day to day and from day after day. So the rain, there is some upside to all the rainfall that we had, and I think that's the reason why we're seeing our temperatures kind of having a tough time around that 90-degree mark in a lot of places. And the humidity is not that high. That's the other part of this conversation, that with respect to weather this time of year, there's almost a reflexive connection. If it's hot, it's got to be humid. And the reality is that at best, maybe everyone's tolerance level is different, and I understand that. But when you look at heat indices and you see that they actually match the temperatures, or in some cases are running lower, it's telling you that the air is not really all that humid. Now here's the U.S. satellite view of much of the country. You see where we were getting these little clusters of thunderstorms that are going on. One up in northern Mississippi, into parts of Tennessee. You've got a fairly strong round of severe weather happening across Wisconsin at the moment, at least right now when we look at the radar. Otherwise, some scattered cells developing in eastern Ohio, western PA, into northeastern Virginia. I saw Johnny Quest, you posted on the chat board that you already saw about an inch of rain. Yeah, there are a few more cells there. They're moving southeastward, and we'll check them on the radar in a moment. The Storm Prediction Center has a couple of areas here. Looks like they did some upgrading from earlier today. We have an area of enhanced up in Montana, where we have a working severe thunderstorm watch and slight risk across much of that state into western North Dakota. We've got the slight risk and a small area of enhanced risk in Wisconsin, and we have 2 working severe thunderstorm watches there. Some heavy cells down in Mississippi, parts of Tennessee and Alabama. There's a marginal risk for severe weather being indicated by SPC. And also in western Maine, seeing some strong cells there up in northern New England. And this weather front that's going to be coming down for Saturday is actually going to be dropping down from eastern Canada and upstate New York. It's going to be one of these east-west cold fronts. So that opens the door for severe weather risk on Saturday. I know I'm jumping a day, but on Saturday for much of my area from Pennsylvania right into southern and central New England. So I'm going to pull up the surface map tonight. I haven't used this in a while, but we do have, believe it or not, there actually is a cold front being analyzed late this afternoon and this evening coming right through New York City. It is separating what I would call the hot, humid air with dew points in the mid and upper 60s and temperatures up around 90. On the other side of that, temperatures are in the 80s with dew points down in the 50s to around 60. It's very hard for me to justify calling what we have today as humid when you've got dew points that are running in the upper 50s to low 60s. Now, those dew points clearly are higher in southern Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, down into Delaware, and of course into Maryland and in Virginia. But along and just north of that front, the air is relatively dry, and I think we're going to hold on to it for one more day. A frontal boundary moving through into western Maine, triggering off some thunderstorms there. And if you look up north near Hudson Bay, that is the front that is going to be dropping southward and breaking this pattern on Saturday. Saturday is going to be the one day where many areas in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast are going to be downright humid, and I guess we can call it uncomfortable. I don't know if I would call it oppressive, but certainly going to be uncomfortable. That front, by the way, that runs from New England to New York City just kind of snakes its way back west through Wisconsin into a low in southern parts of North Dakota. And, of course, it's high pressure that is sitting in Tennessee, and you're seeing some of the convective development being set off by all the daytime heating and probably a couple of weak upper air disturbances moving along in the flow. In some ways, this is an easy time of year to forecast. In other ways, it's not because of the fact that you do have the convective nature, and there's oftentimes you think it's going to be in one spot and it winds up being in another. Take a look at the Northeast satellite loop down to the mid-Atlantic states. Not much in the way of cloud cover, really, and the dry air. There are a couple of weak disturbances moving along in the flow, but unlike yesterday where we saw those blow-up storms, we're not really seeing them here today in upstate New York. In western Maine, starting to see some showing up on the loop here. I think there they go. You can see those cloud tops being blown out rapidly from west to east as those thunderstorms form, and also seeing some strong storms forming north of Lake Ontario and up the St. Lawrence Valley. That is some of that is being triggered off by just the daytime heating and probably some sort of upper air disturbance that is moving right along. The next cold front is still not quite that far south, at least not yet. So here's the radar tonight. Let's go right up to Wisconsin, where we've got a squall line of very heavy thunderstorms. Looks like they're just moving into Madison, Wisconsin, and set to move further to the east. Some very heavy downpours there. It's got that comma shape, so you know you're talking about some kind of upper air trough that's swinging through here. The storms in Ohio clustered and scattered around, so it's a bit more convective there. And then you can see the thunderstorms up. You know, it's not often that we look at the radar up in northern Maine to take a look at thunderstorms, but we do actually have what looks like a fairly strong cell there up in northwestern Maine. Otherwise, moving south, some scattered stuff in Florida. Here's the area that's going on in parts of Mississippi and into northwestern Alabama, southern Tennessee. Seeing some showers and storms in southeast Texas, and also seeing some back over into New Mexico. And now we're going to see that this is the area of slight to enhanced risk, generating what looks like a developing line of storms there in western Montana that is moving on up to the northeast. Some showers coming in at the Pacific Northwest, and of course, it's bone dry in California and in the southwest. Remember, folks, radars and satellites are dated at 6:08 Eastern Time, so if you're watching this on a replay, particularly if you're in an area that's getting impacted by severe weather, you want to go to your local National Weather Service forecast page, and you can access that by going to weather.gov so you can have all the latest weather information. SPC, I don't know, I'm having trouble with some of their downloads today, and I'm not sure why, but this is the risk area for Saturday. And the marginal risk across eastern Ohio, Pennsylvania, down into northeastern Virginia, over through New Jersey, southeastern New York, Long Island, southern New England, and southeastern New England, all at a marginal risk. I wouldn't be too surprised if this winds up getting nudged up to a slight risk, or at least a small area of slight risk added to this when we get to Saturday. In the meantime, we have a marginal to slight risk also from Minnesota on up into northern North Dakota, northwestern Minnesota. That yellow area, 15% is a slight risk. And I'm just going to run back to day 2, not to forget for Friday, but notice nothing forecast as far as thunderstorms are concerned along the coastal plain from South Carolina to southern New Hampshire and Massachusetts. You have a marginal risk from Iowa to the Great Lakes and slight risk up also again northeastern Montana, northwestern North Dakota with a larger area of marginal risk surrounding that. So that's for Friday. And again, Saturday is when that area from the lakes is going to shift eastward with the cold front dropping down from the north, and we've got that marginal risk from PA to Massachusetts. Okay, so really there's not a whole lot happening from the standpoint of the jet stream pattern, so we could start there. And we could also roll it back a little bit. Going back to Monday, trough off the East Coast, trough in the plains, ridge in the middle, and of course the plains trough lifts out to the northeast, well to our west. The heights build, high pressure builds aloft across the southern plains in Texas, down into Mexico, and pushes on up into the Dakotas and Minnesota. We've got this nice sort of relaxed west-northwest flow. We're on the southern edge of it, so it tends to keep things relatively dry and stable. If you look carefully, you can actually pick out little kinks in that flow. And those are short waves that are moving along. We had a week 1 go through last night, and we actually have a week 1 going through this evening, which is probably marking the dry line, and nothing much for tomorrow. As we transition over into higher humidity on Saturday, I threw in the chance that there could be an overnight thunderstorm. I don't know. It's there, it's not there when you look at these models, but I think there's enough going on that you could put it in. Now, if you go to Saturday's upper air here, a big upper high in the middle of the country, trough along and off the west coast, upper low sitting in James Bay that's dropping southeastward. This is our cold front that's going to move through here for Saturday night. And you have a second front that's going to come through Sunday afternoon that's going to have the real dry air behind it. We will see humidity levels go down on Sunday, but then they'll go down even more Sunday night into Monday. And then the jet stream for next week, it kind of has this sort of west to east look to it. A little trough there in the middle by Wednesday, but there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot here for the atmosphere to work with. There probably will be little ripples moving along in the flow that will afford opportunities for showers and thunderstorms. This is not a pattern that to me looks overly hot. It's depending on where you are, it might be somewhat humid, but it's not crazy heat and humidity we're talking about here. It is, you've got flat upper highs, one off the East Coast and one in the Southwest, with a jet stream that is running down to about 35 degrees north, so right down into southern Virginia, the southern edge of that jet stream. So if you're north of there, the implication is that the jet stream is going to be moving weather systems along, so that even though it does tend to warm up some, you will have cold fronts coming through from time to time to put an end to this. Now, the models seem to want to amplify the troughing in the east in the longer term, especially going out past days 8 and 9 and beyond. We'll see if that winds up being the case. But again, I am not seeing anything here that says to me, be concerned about prolonged heat and prolonged humidity. And for most of us, that's pretty good for this time of year. Take a look at the dew points and what they're going to do, because these are the players here. Here's our dew points for, this is off the GFS from earlier. I believe that's the 12Z. Should have enough of the 18Z out now. But here are our dew points for this evening and for Friday afternoon. So you're talking dew points, southern Pennsylvania southward. You're seeing dew points in the mid-60s to near 70, but you still have 50 dew points here pushing into New York City, Long Island, the Hudson Valley, and through all of New England, and through much of the Hudson Valley going all the way up into the Adirondacks. The 70-plus dew points are certainly obvious back through Ohio and in through Michigan and Indiana. Now, that air comes in here for Saturday. This is where we're talking the one day where I think it's going to be oppressive, well, all right, I don't know, about, let's say uncomfortable for much of the Northeast into the northern mid-Atlantic states. The dew points are going to be running in the upper 60s and low 70s. You've got 70 dew points back into Ohio and Indiana. Now, there's something I want to take a look at here for 1 second. I'm just going to widen this out. All right, so you'll notice there's a bit of an upper high that's sitting up in northwestern North Carolina. They're kind of on that edge of that northwest flow. We pull up the dew points here. You'll notice that there's actually 50, dew points in the 50s down in western Virginia, western North Carolina, Saturday afternoon. The air is sinking underneath that upper ridge, and there's actually a little pocket of dry air with dew points in the mid-50s to low 60s extending down into northern Georgia and into western North Carolina, western South Carolina. That's actually it's pretty interesting. It's kind of created its own little world there, and it's still trying to hang on going into Sunday morning. Now, watch what happens now. You're going to see this front go through here on Saturday afternoon. It's a little hard to pick out. I don't know if you could see it very well where the isobars bend down in southern New Jersey and Delaware. So that's your this shot for Saturday evening shows it better. There's a lead front that comes through Saturday evening. The real front is back here Sunday morning, running from Boston straight west to about Erie, Pennsylvania. And that you're separating dew points that are running from the upper 60s to low 70s to upper 50s and low 60s to dew points in the 40s. And that second front comes through here Sunday afternoon, and that shot of dry air comes in for Sunday night and Mondays. We got dew points by Monday, early Monday morning in the 40s down into eastern Pennsylvania, and low 50s up to about New York City, and also low 50 dew points down into eastern Virginia. Dew points are starting to go up back through the Great Lakes. Monday, dry, dew points in the middle of the afternoon, mostly in the 50s. Can't complain about that. 70-plus dew points, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. Now, that's where it really is oppressive here for Monday, out west of west of Pittsburgh and west of the Appalachians. That's where you're getting your really oppressive air with those dew points so darn high. We're still holding on to 50 dew points through Monday night. And then you start to get into these dew points for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday that run up higher. But even here, look at Tuesday, your dew points that run up. There's another front, by the way, that comes through late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. And the dew points actually drop into the 50s here on Wednesday. So we're still in this setup where some days are going to be more humid than others. Some days are going to be warmer or hot. Other days not so much. For my area at least, we're kind of on that edge. And the unfortunately, if you're in the Ohio Valley, if you're around the Great Lakes, it's a totally different. You're in the soup. Okay, you're in the in the hot air. And in fact, let me just bring up the temperatures with those dew points. You can see readings being sent up into the 80s with dew points in the 70s. That can't feel good. Meanwhile, by the way, just backing up on temperatures, The GFS has been overly aggressive with temperatures, so you just want to be a little careful here. But we do see temperatures climbing well up into the 90s to near 100 being indicated for the southeast again. Now, this area did experience an early stretch of heat, and we have been seeing some record temperatures being set over parts of Florida that we saw this week. So the southeast U.S. and down into Florida does look to get rather hot going into, or continue to be rather hot going through this coming week. The model is, tries to push that northern heat up into Virginia. I want to be a little careful here. It has tended to be overzealous in trying to bring hot air up too far north. At least I noticed that over the last couple of weeks. So we'll just examine these things from day to day. I'm looking at the 4th of July, by the way, on this particular map. So you get the idea. There's variability going on in a lot of areas. I think that's going to continue. And with respect to opportunities for showers and thunderstorms, most of the time we're not going to see them. The chance, again, late Friday night, early Saturday morning. Here's your front for Saturday afternoon and evening. The GFS sort of brings them through. It actually has them showing up in upstate New York, and then it kind of reforms them off the New Jersey coast down into Maryland, Virginia. We'll see if that's the case. The second front comes through relatively dry, although it looks like there might be some showers or perhaps a few scattered thunderstorms up in upstate New York, and particularly into New England, with that low sitting near Nova Scotia. And then Monday looks dry. Tuesday, here's another front comes through for Tuesday. There's not a whole lot of, the air behind it is actually, it's more like a trough than anything else. It's really not a front because the air behind it is just as warm as the air ahead of it. But it does perhaps provide the mechanism to clean up the atmosphere a little bit and bring in a little shot of dry air. Wednesday, Thursday, into Friday next week, opportunities for scattered showers and thunderstorms during the late afternoon and evening. But I'll bet you that for the vast majority of you folks that are watching in my zone, that you're not going to see much of anything. Cruise control type of week. I didn't bring it up ahead of time, so let's do this now. Let's take a look at what's going on with Alvin on the Pacific side. They were up. They got the winds down to 65 miles an hour. This is it's funny. I have to defer a lot to NHC with this sort of stuff, if only because of the fact that, I'm not sitting down there with all the things that they get to look at, nor do I have the time. But they were kind of, keeping this as a minimal tropical storm, and now it's up to 65 miles an hour. And by the way, we look at these storms on the Pacific side because we're weather geeks, and not for any other reason, because this is obviously not going to be any threat to land. But I just want to show you on the satellite. It's still pretty small, but it is definitely a bit better organized, and it's moving now west-northwestward. You're going to see this go into the colder waters in less than 24 hours. So I think it's probably reached its peak intensity as it moves along. And that's it. As far as the Atlantic side is concerned, it is still very, very quiet there. I can bring it up really quick. We'll bring up the Atlantic satellite picture. We're still dealing with issues of Saharan dust. We are still dealing with issues. Looks like the loop is a little slow to load here. But we're still also dealing with wind shear, and not a surprise. It's June. Half the time you don't see tropical storm development during the month of June, anyhow. So we'll probably. I think we're going to probably stay relatively inactive through a good part of the month of July, and we may have to. We're just going to have to wait till the climatologically favored time for development when we get into the month of August. And I'll be interested to continue to watch what's happening on the Pacific side, if only to see if that's a reflection of the El Nino weakening, because if it is, it might give a little extra juice to the Atlantic tropical storm season once it actually gets going. All right, the last week of June or first week of July is a very, very slow time of year. The chairman is back tonight, Scott Briller. His mom getting better and better, a little better every day, and that's good to hear. Izzy D, much hotter today than yesterday. No breeze. Some areas did have a breeze, though. You certainly didn't get a sea breeze today, as you probably went up into about 91 or 2, and dew point at 63, because I know you're closer to the water, so that's not a shock. But the inland dew points are a few notches lower. Now, good thing I cut the grass, debating it yesterday. Should do it on Friday, and you did it yesterday. Don't blame you. Don't like the heat. Robert Brown, nice to see you on board tonight. Just running through everybody. Got a little bit of time here. Okay. Chuck Cardillo, you made it, which is always good. You had those severe storms yesterday, but not today. Lovely up there in the Catskills. And Johnny Quest, of course, you're seeing those scattered storms down in southwest PA that extend over into northeastern Virginia. Let's see, did I miss anybody in that stretch? Nope. Lewis Hecht in Bethesda, welcome. And by the way, thank you for joining Patreon. I really appreciate it. I saw you join my weather platform on Patreon. And if those of you who are weather geeky, the link is there on the description of this live stream and the description of this video. If you're watching it on a replay, if it's weather you want, day in, day out, you might want to think about jumping on my weather platform on Patreon. Let's see. Javon Perry, forever waiting for your thunderstorms. You may get your shot on Saturday with that marginal risk in that east-west cold front. New England usually, and my area too, down into southeastern New York and through New Jersey, those east-west fronts do tend to produce severe weather that gets down to the coastline. It cuts off the flow in from off the Atlantic, so you don't have any kind of marine layer issues, or when you get that south wind for the south-facing shorelines in southern New England and Long Island, for example, those are usually thunderstorm killers. But when you have that front east-west, if you've got some decent dynamics, you could. That's when I usually see some fairly potent thunderstorms. Chris Alley, nice to see you. Phil P, Amy Hogan. We've got Timothy Veltman on 2 weeks from today. First post time, Saratoga. Yes, I have to get up there. I have not been up to Saratoga over the last couple of years. I will have to get up there this horse racing season. And hopefully I'll do it on a day where we've got a nice dry air mass that comes down from out of Canada. Charlie Baker, nice to see you on board. And Jason Schaefer, also great to see you on board as well. And if I missed anybody, James NASCAR fan and Lawrence Quarles. So big storms up in Wisconsin there. Lawrence, you show them on the radars are very busy up there. We showed them earlier. I don't know if you jumped on board early or late to see it, but yeah, you got that severe weather that's ripping on through up there in the Western Lakes. All right, I think that kind of covers it all tonight. Northern Maine, Amy Hogan, you're right, getting those storms. I think we're going to wrap it up here at this point. So let me just give you a couple of some heads up on what I'm thinking. So we're coming into a weekend, and we're also going into next week, which is the 4th of July. I'm working all next week, so I don't really see anything that I'll be doing anything differently from day to day, unless the weather gets, if it gets really, really quiet on any given day. I probably will shorten these live streams up a little bit. As far as tomorrow is concerned, you'll get your weather in 5. Now, whether I decide to do a live stream tomorrow evening or not remains to be seen. Saturday, that is hard for me to say one way or another, because I'm going to just take a look and see if there's any kind of severe weather threat that might nudge me to go ahead and do something later Saturday afternoon or early Saturday evening, depending on the timing of storms. If it winds up that severe weather is not going to be a big deal, I may just take a break over the weekend. We'll see. But next week it'll be back to normal. Week after next, I'm going camping for a week. So I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I don't know what kind of signal I'm going to have. But I'll bring my stuff up with me, because I can't fish every 24 hours a day. Well, maybe you can. You can't fish 24 hours a day. So during my downtime, if I have a signal, I'll be able to do something. But I won't know till I get there. All right, folks, have a great evening. Thanks for being here as always. Website posts are up on meteorologistjoechaffee.com. For those of you, again, as I said, if you're weather geeky or if you use weather every day, if it's important to you to make, for whatever decisions you're having to make, consider my platform on Patreon. The link is on the description of this live stream or video, and it's just $2 a month. And if winter is a big deal for you, this might be a good place for you, because I have a lot of snow removal guys, a lot of landscapers, a lot of people that are involved in the heating and air conditioning business. So if you need a little bit of weather consulting or help, let's just call it help from the standpoint of weather, this platform may be good for you. All right, have a great evening, everybody. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow.